The World News Today is being brought to you by One Solar Solution. Check out how you can get those solar panels installed at your home or residence by going to onesolarsolution.com. Bringing you the world news coming up next. This is Radio Caravan, the world news read by Shabnam Modgil. Americans are commemorating 9/11 with tributes that have been altered by coronavirus precautions and woven into the presidential campaign, drawing both President Trump and Democratic challenger Joe Biden to pay respects at the same memorial without crossing paths. In New York, a dispute over coronavirus safety precautions is leading to split-screen remembrances, one at the September 11 Memorial Plaza at the World Trade Center and another on a nearby corner. President Trump and Democratic challenger Joe Biden will commemorate the 19th anniversary today of these attacks, with both separately visiting the rural Pennsylvania field also, where one of the hijacked planes crashed. On the eve of the anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, a federal judge has directed the Saudi Arabian government to make as many as 24 current and former officials available for depositions about their possible knowledge of events leading up to the airplane attacks of September 11, 2001, which killed almost 3,000 Americans. Those officials include Prince Bandar, the former ambassador to the United States, and his longtime chief of staff. 6 of the 20 largest wildfires in California history started last month and this month. And with average high temperatures continuing to set records, calls are increasing to address the connection between extreme weather events and climate change. The death toll from the West Coast wildfires has risen to at least 23 this morning as dozens of blazes continue to spread in California, Oregon, and Washington state. Firefighters battling unprecedented wildfires up and down the U.S. West Coast this morning, and authorities in Oregon now say more than 500,000 people statewide have been forced to evacuate because of these wildfires. Anti-racism protesters recognize the risk that comes with their calls for equal justice, knowing that for all their peaceful protests, scenes of burning buildings will hand President Trump the images he needs for his law and order re-election campaign. The mayor of the protest-hit U.S. city of Portland in Oregon ordered city police to stop using tear gas for crowd control purposes. The northwestern city has endured more than 100 days of demonstrations against racism and police brutality. Lawmakers in Portland also passed landmark bans on the use of facial recognition technology by government agencies as well as private entities in public spaces. President Trump at a White House news conference yesterday continued to defend comments he made to journalist Bob Woodward, in which he admitted he deliberately downplayed the seriousness of the coronavirus to the public despite knowing its a deadly danger, and argued that if the comments were so bad, Woodward should have made them public sooner. The U.S. has seen 2 peaks in its COVID-19 case numbers. Europe is beginning to see its second wave, seemingly bigger than the first, in France and Spain, but smaller in Germany, Italy, and the U.K. And India continues to see a strong and steady increase in daily cases numbers, yet to reach its peak as active cases near 1 million and the daily cases at 100,000. The U.S. Senate killed a Republican bill that would have provided around $300 billion in new coronavirus aid, as Democrats seeking far more funding prevented it from advancing. And Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden has maintained a nearly double-digit national lead over President Trump among registered voters since last month. Hillary Clinton is doing her first grassroots event with Democratic vice presidential nominee Kamala Harris, and that will be happening on Monday. President Trump predicted at a rally in Michigan that he would win the election battleground state as thousands of cheering, largely maskless supporters defied state guidelines aimed at containing the coronavirus. Beijing denied trying to meddle in presidential elections after American tech giant Microsoft said it had parried cyber attacks from overseas groups, including from China, against both the Republican and Democratic campaigns. Microsoft said it thwarted the recent cyber attacks from China, Russia, and Iran. And several explosions occurred early this morning in a Jordanian military base warehouse where unusable mortar shells were being stored. Arab foreign ministers failed to reach agreement on a draft resolution condemning last month's normalization deal between the United Arab Emirates and Israel. With Israel's Prime Minister lashing out at him nearly every day, the country's Attorney General is pressing Benjamin Netanyahu to sign a conflict of interest agreement, barring him from influencing key appointments that could affect his corruption trial. Syrian air defenses have thwarted an Israeli attack on Aleppo city this morning, and Israel's military said that one of its drones fell inside Lebanon during operational activity along the frontier, while the Lebanese army said it had shot it down. White smoke rose from the smoldering wreckage of Beirut's port today, hours after firefighters extinguished a huge fire that terrified the city's residents 5 weeks after a massive blast killed nearly 200 people and destroyed parts of Lebanon's capital. And during his visit this month, French President Emmanuel Macron gave Lebanon's politicians a roadmap for policy change and reform, set deadlines for them to take action, and told them he'd be back in December to check on progress. It was a hands-on approach that angered some in Lebanon and was welcomed by others. For Emmanuel Macron, the moment of truth is approaching at a rate of knots. The French president has again fired off rhetorical broadsides at his Turkish counterpart over the crisis in the eastern Mediterranean. Russia clashed with Germany and 5 of its Western allies over the poisoning of Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny, with Moscow's ambassador demanding evidence that a Soviet-era nerve agent was responsible and Germany's envoy countering that his country's findings have been handed over to the International Chemical Weapons Watchdog. Russian police said they were seeking to question opposition leader Alexei Navalny in Berlin after Moscow rubbished Germany's declaration that he was poisoned with the nerve agent Novichok. Britain has said it will launch a new COVID-19 app across England and Wales later this month, which will allow people to use QR codes when they enter venues, boosting the country's contact tracing to help keep the spread of the virus in check. And Diana Rigg, the actress known for her roles in movies and TV shows like The Avengers, Game of Thrones, and on Her Majesty's Secret Service, has died at the age of 82. Her death was confirmed by her daughter yesterday, who said she died peacefully at home with her family. And made by 20 craftsmen over the course of 2 months, One Direction's wax statues at Madame Tussauds made headlines, immediately mobbed by adoring fans when they first revealed in 2013. However, since the band going on an indefinite hiatus and the boys parting to go their solo ways, seems like the statues no longer represent teamwork and so are being taken down. Ian Morgan is hoping for spinning pitches during England's one-day international series against Australia as the world champions plan for the 2023 World Cup in India. The United Nations Human Rights Office called for Cambodia to release detained human rights and environmental activists, saying at least 24 have been arrested because of their work in recent weeks. Months before he announced his resignation, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe set in motion a policy change that could, for the first time, allow Japan's military to plan for strikes on land targets in China and other parts of Asia. Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen has visited an air defense missile base today, where she urged the troops to be steadfast in their defense of the island's sovereignty and democracy as tensions with China continue to rise. Chinese state media cautiously welcomed the 5-point consensus reached by Indian and Chinese foreign ministers in Moscow to defuse the ongoing border tension, but said it was New Delhi's responsibility to ensure the final positive outcome. India and China agreed on 5 points to guide their approach to the situation on the line of actual control, including the disengagement of troops and easing of tensions following talks between External Affairs Minister Jai Shankar and his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi. Indian and Chinese military commanders will be meeting in the next few days to discuss comprehensive disengagement from all friction points in Ladakh as the first step towards de-escalation. You're listening to the World News on Radio Caravan, and India has added another 89,706 coronavirus cases to the second highest reported tally of infections in the world as the country moves ahead with measures to further open up economic activity in a bid to recover from the impact of the lockdown imposed earlier in the year. According to the Health Ministry, India's total caseload reached 4.37 million. The ministry also has reported 1,115 deaths in the past 24 hours, taking total fatalities up to 73,890. A total of 189 more Maharashtra police personnel have tested positive for COVID-19, while one died in the last 24 hours. And a special court in Mumbai has rejected the bail petitions of Riya Chakrabarti and her brother Shawik, arrested by the Narcotics Control Bureau in connection with the drugs case linked to the death of actor Sushant Singh Rajput. India and the US have called on Pakistan to take immediate, sustained and irreversible action to ensure that Pakistani territory isn't used for terror attacks and to speedily bring to justice the perpetrators of the 2008 Mumbai and 2016 Pathankot attacks. The two countries also underscored the need for concerted action against all terrorist networks, including Al-Qaeda, Islamic State, Lashkar-e-Toiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed and Hizbul Mujahideen. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi has held separate meetings with his Chinese and Russian counterparts Wang Yi and Sergei Lavrov, respectively, on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization's meeting of Council of Foreign Ministers. And Pakistan has vowed to defeat spoilers attempting to sabotage upcoming intra-Afghan dialogue through cooperation with Afghanistan. The World Health Organization said Pakistan was among countries from whom the international community should learn how to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. Former Special Assistant to Prime Minister on Health, Dr. Zafar Mirza, said that he was recognizing Pakistan's efforts at the international level. The confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Pakistan, 300,371, with 6,370 deaths reported. And on the 72nd death anniversary of the founder of the nation, President Arif Alvi reminded citizens that following the teachings of Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah was the only way to become a successful nation. People from different walks of life visiting the mausoleum today to lay floral wreaths on the Quaid's grave. Expressing displeasure over criticism of dual nationals holding public office, Prime Minister Imran Khan stressed the need for tapping what he called resource pool of Pakistani experts and professionals living abroad for the uplifting of the country. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all I have in the news for you today.